Our speaker today is one we've heard before. Early on this year, we had a joint meeting with Rotary, as you remember, and we had some questionnaires to fill out with regard to where we want our public schools to go, what we're doing right, what we need to do better. And I thought it would be good to have an update on that. So who better than to give the update than our superintendent, Tim Argo.
So just to give you an update on where we're at with our strategic planning, I'm excited for how the public schools and the direction that we are heading. It has been a long process as we've worked our way through this. When you say the word strategic plan, you think, oh, we're just going to put this together and it'll be easy, and it'll just fall right into place. And it has been a task for our administrative team, for our teachers, and for our community. We put a lot of work into this, and we're still working on it. We are at the point of phase 3 in the 4 phases of the plan. And so I wanted to go back and just kind of talk with you for just a second about thank you. And I might add, Caitlin Boziden, my IT director, I should have introduced her. She keeps me from getting into too much trouble. I'm very thankful for what she has brought to our district. So I wanted to go back and just talk just a little bit about where we were when we started this process, engagement of our community. We had over 550 respondents to our survey. We had 14 community surveys, powerful times to meet with people and let them express what they thought. And I can tell you, I think it was after we met, it was right before we met with the joint Rotary and Kiwanis, we had a student forum. It was the most powerful forum we had. Those kids shared with us what their expectations are and what they want to do in the future. And I can tell you, from meeting with our facilitators, from visiting with students later, they've never seen anything like that in the 16 schools they've been in. Our students were top-notch. Their answers were the best. It was thinking about one another. They thought about students that were in elementary school and not just about that junior and senior year. So it was a very powerful time for us as we set the stage for this strategic plan. So from that, we came into what are the core values of Alva. And I know that slide's kind of hard to read, so I'm going to read it to you. But our core values, in order to ensure a quality teaching and learning environment, Alva Public Schools values, and from all the respondent surveys from community forums to our students to what you all told us, they rank these in order from top to bottom. And the most important thing that we found from these surveys is you want quality teachers. And then you want a respectful and nurturing environment. Building and grounds is important. School and community connections, up-to-date technology, quality programs, adequate financials, strong leadership, a safe environment, and then small class sizes. And so, as we look at our decision making as we move forward in the strategic plan, we want to make sure that we value what our community tells us. And these are those things that they value. If we go to the next slide, it talks a little bit about learner expectations. And this is really where our students and our parents were able to really have a say in what do we want to see out of our kids. And as a district, it's so important that we are preparing our young people to be in our community, to be our leaders, to be our school board members, our mayors, our presidents. And so these are the things that they felt like were important to them. Effective communication skills. One of the things that we hear over and over again, or I do as superintendent, is communication. And it's so valuable that I think we put it on a piece of paper. But I think one of the things that didn't get on there, and then we've begun to have the conversation with not only an administrative team, but with our students, is part of communication is listening. And if we're not listening to one another, we're not going to change and get better and grow as a community and grow as a school. So effective communication skills is a learner expectations. That's what our community feels like for the graduates of 2028 they would like to see. Critical thinking skills, organization, goal setting, time management, creativity. Creativity, that's an interesting. I'll come back. I hope to come back sometime, and we'll do a discussion on school report cards. Sometimes we focus on the academic side, and that's very, very important. But out of high school and out of middle school and even our elementaries, outside of those academic days, some of the programming we provide our students is the best in the state. And that doesn't get measured on that report card. But creativity is important. Mastery of core content, collaboration skills, conflict resolution, technology use, skills to locate and use information, and financial skills. So that's what our community values and wants our kids to know in 2028. We go to the next slide. It talks about our core beliefs. Alva Public Schools believes that to realize their expectations for graduates, teaching and learning should provide community service opportunities. We are in the process of planning some leadership opportunities for students. I have made a concerted effort myself to get our administrative team back in the classroom. One of the things that I've noticed in my role this year is the disengagement with students that I've had. It's difficult to go see those kids and stay on top of the business part of school. And the business is our kids. And so we want to reach out to them in a way to get them involved in our community, and we need your help in doing that. Family support and engagement. We have great support in Alva, Oklahoma. Our parents, our community want to support us. I think what we found is we don't ask. It's one of those things we talk about, gosh, I really would like some support at home or some family engagement, and we forget to ask the people that are going to do it. And so we're going to get better at that. Opportunities for creativity and innovation, relative content, basic skills, opportunities for collaboration, education about post-high school opportunities. We are in the process right now of meeting with Northwestern. Everything is a process, and they've been a great partner with us. And really excited about some of the concurrent enrollment opportunities we're going to be offering our students, hopefully in the next year. And so we want to continue to expand our partnership with Northwestern and our career tech. We have to get our students ready for college or the career. And we're going to get serious about that. Talk is cheap. Our kids need it. And there's been enough talking about it. We're going to do it. Emphasis or consideration of student strengths and weaknesses. Enrichment and community support. And so these are just some of those core beliefs and some of those things that came out from those surveys. If we look at the next part of our plan, the next side was the planning. So we got all this information together, and the facilitators went through it, and they coded it, and they themed it, and they put it all together. And then we met with a leadership team of community members, administrators, we had teacher representatives, we had support staff representatives, and most importantly, we had students. And we met for 2 days and began planning this part, or planning what our strategic plan is going to look like from the data we received from our community. And I got to tell you that it was probably one of the longest 2 days I've ever experienced. I was absolutely exhausted. It was interesting, and it was great to see our community come together. But it's amazing the scope of our school district. And the school business is a hard business. And it was amazing as we sat down together and we looked at data and we looked at what our survey said. And at times we would sit there and think, man, how do we solve this problem? How do we give our community what we need? And I can tell you that it never failed to happen or to amaze me that our kids that were in that room, I think there were three juniors and 2 sophomores that sat at each table in each group. And they would solve the problem in a matter of minutes. Whatever conversation that we were having as a committee or as a group, and we were trying to think, gosh, how do we do this? We turn to that student and say, well, what do you think? And they would give us an answer, and we'd look at each other and think, gosh, this kid just asked me from the beginning. So again, a powerful time as we went through this planning process. And so one of the things that we did throughout this is we broke down from all of this data and all this information, and it's difficult to see, and I made that way too small. I know, Amy, I'll correct it. So the first area is curriculum instruction. And curriculum instruction is something that we focused on for a few years now. Last year, that was really my role as assistant superintendent, was to begin to focus on our curriculum instruction and aligning from building to building. You know, I was unique with the fact that we have 5 different school sites. And so bringing those school sites together, working with one another, communicating with one another as to what's being taught from site to site is crucial. And so we started some of that a year ago, and then we've got some objectives that we need to work together. And you can't see that second one, but I kind of want to point it out. The second objective to that goal area is to increase awareness of career pathways. And below that is an initiative. It's something that we want to accomplish, and that is individual career academic plans. So one of the things that we're going to work with our students on is when they get into the 6th grade, we want them to begin having conversations about where they want to be and what they want to do. And that's something that the state started a few years ago, but we're going to kind of take it and make it fit out of the public schools. And we want to talk about not only college pathways, but we want to talk about career pathways. We want to provide families with information to make decisions that are best for them. And sometimes that's going to mean that we make some difficult decisions program-wise, but ultimately, if we have students that are ready to take a concurrent enrollment every year, then let's let that kid go do it. If that's what's best for that family and that student, let's let them go. If we've got a student that's ready to go out and work on some electrical or some plumbing as a sophomore, let's let them go do that. If that's what's best for them and they're meeting the academic requirements, let's let that family and that student make that decision. And so that's one that we feel like will be very impactful, and we're going to see the fruits of that in our community. If we look at the next one, go back. This was on culture and community. This area is talking about improving student engagement, developing quality programs, improving involvement and satisfaction. The culture and community of our school district is second to none. But as we found through this process, we've got to provide more opportunities for people to be heard. And that's really my responsibility to make sure that we're doing that and our parents feel comfortable in our schools. So as we went through, and we've got another phase tomorrow where we've got some action steps that we have to do to achieve all of these, and we're going to set a timeline for them. And so when we get to that point, I'd love to come back in May and share some of those action steps and that timeline. But that's a large component of what we did through this strategic planning process, was engage our community, but it can't stop. It's got to continue. If you look at the third goal, it's personnel. The teacher shortage is a huge crisis in Oklahoma, and so the component of some objectives in this was not only to recruit quality staff, but then to retain quality staff. And so there are some initiatives, some action steps that we have to take to be able to make sure that we have quality teachers and that we retain those quality teachers. And then the final objective is resources. And this is a big one. This is going to be about our facilities, improving facilities. It's going to be about having a capital improvement plan. As I've gone through the first 9 months, one of the things that has caught me by surprise is just the massive size of our facilities and the upkeep, what we all have. You know, I always thought when I was a principal, we have 5 sites, we just need to take care of those 5 sites. And I just think about, well, we've got a transportation to bus barn area, we have an ag farm, we've got a football field area, we've got a softball, baseball field area. So there's just so much more to it facility-wise than I ever imagined. So we've got to come up with a way to make sure that we're improving our facilities, that we have an improvement plan in place, so that we don't let things go to waste and deteriorate at such a rate that it costs us too much money to fix them. So that will be a part of this initiative and this plan. And then the second one is to align our finances to this plan. Alva Public Schools is in great shape financially. From Mr. Parkhurst to Mrs. Johnson to superintendents before, they've been good stewards of your money. And very thankful for what they have done financially for our district. And so we've got to continue that. I have to continue to manage that and maintain that. And we're at a point in time with our state that they're looking at many changes with the school funding formula. And quite frankly, it's scary when they start messing with a formula that is deemed one of the most equitable in the nation. And there is talk, and I'm not sure where that bill is now, about collapsing the formula. And when you collapse the formula, there are three parts to that. The top part is our salary incentive aid. And the school funding formula is very intense, and there's a lot to it. But there's different weights for students and special needs and so on and so forth. But the top part of your formula is that salary. It's called a foundation aid. And that is part of those weights. You also then have your local production. And right now we all know that gross production has been very good for Alva Public Schools. It's been so good that we have more money in our top half of the formula than the state would provide us. So there's no state money on the top half. Then you go down to the middle part of the formula, and they call that the transportation section. And we get state funding for the transportation section, about $67,500 for our transportation. And that's not quite enough to fulfill our transportation needs. And then if you look at the very bottom, they call that foundation aid, salary incentive aid, excuse me. And the talk is to move this money up to the top and do away with it. We receive about $400,000 of that money. And so there's talk that there's schools off the formula. And we're not. And we haven't been. We've always been on, just not on the top half. And so I don't want to lose that state funding, because that's very important in our district. And over the long run, you continue to drain down your fund balance, and then we're back on the formula. And so legislatively, it's important that you all as a community stay engaged in what is going on. I have reached out to our representatives and senators and told them anytime you'd like for me to share with you what I think and what's good for Alva Public Schools, I'd love to do that. And so aligning resources with this plan so that we can ensure this plan is completed is going to be a huge component as we move forward. I have noticed over the last 2 months, our gross production has fallen. We are about 60 to 80,000 less than what we've been. Now, part of that is the lag from when it's collected in the price, so we know that hopefully if that continues to go up, we'll see improvement. But it's something as a community we have to be mindful of as we begin implementation of the plan. So if we go on to the next one, action. This is the part that we're going to be in tomorrow. We met yesterday as an administrative team for an hour and a half with the facilitators, and we went through every action step that was put down by the group that met a month ago. And when we left that room, I had an administrator call me, and they said, "I'm overwhelmed. We've got a lot to do." And I said, "We do, but we will do it. And you're going to do it, and we're going to like doing it together. And so we're going to be able to accomplish these things, but it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take your help to do that." We're going to set a timeline tomorrow, like I said. By the end of tomorrow, the strategic plan will be about 95% completed. All that will be left will be for the facilitators to go back and put it together in a form that will be presentable to our Board of Education. And then they will approve that at our May board meeting. Once that's done, I would love to come back and share that completed form with you, share some of those action steps, and be able to share that and hand that out to you. Thank you for having me here today. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer or tell you I don't have an answer and find out for you. My office is always open except for Coach Moss, and it's closed. But no, anytime you want to come visit with me, share your thoughts about our school district. This is your school, and it's certainly not mine. I would love to hear it.
Tim?
Yes, you.
I don't know if I'd be easier, but I've been involved in a similar process that you're going through. And one of the kind of traps is that we can fix it all if we just had more money. So when you went through all of these things we want to get done, how many of them are driven by finances and how many of them are driven by a change of attitude, disposition, work effort, reassigning of duties? Do we have to add any staff? Do we have to tweak who's doing what jobs? I mean, that process, because I've been involved in that, and a lot of times it's just, well, if we just had more money, we'd do this, we'd hire more people, we'd do whatever. So maybe to your guy who said he was overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So did you find those similar issues going through this process? I guess my question is, how much of them are money driven, how much of it is just attitude, work, what we're going to do, who's going to do what, that kind of stuff?
So I think that one of the things that one of my responsibilities as superintendent is to wear a couple of different hats, and probably what I feel like is the most important hat is to make sure that organizationally we are efficient. And so our community obviously values small class sizes. They've told us that. And there are some things that involve personnel that we hold dear and are important to us. But efficiency is something that I have to look at every day. So I would say that when you look at this plan, when you look at capital improvement facilities, that's all going to be money driven. When you look at culture and community, that is putting yourself out there and meeting with folks, and that's time. So I'm going to tell you that probably a lot of this plan is 80% of it is going to be putting our time and effort into reaching people, and maybe 20% is going to be the financial part.
That's good. That's better than most of them I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to tell you, since you was hateful to me, that in 38 years in education, this makes my heart skip a beat, because this is the most profound thing that I've heard of in all these years about breaking down walls between colleges and career tech and getting kids out into internships and preparing kids for the workforce. So many times I would ask teachers, what are we here for? They'd say, to educate. And I'd say, for what? Well, just for the sake of education. And I said, yes, we want to educate them, but they have to be able to go into the workforce. And I just want to give you kudos.
You know, one of the things we talk about as administrators is that, and I shared with the administrative team when I first got the job, is that we're going to make decisions about kids. And so that's tough to hear sometimes. But that's how we're going to function, is we make decisions that are best for kids, and sometimes that makes us as adults uncomfortable.
It does.
But it's not about us.
But
Sorry.
always before we'd ask kids, we tried to get them involved with curriculum, and they had no interest, because they couldn't see any reason that this was going to help them with what they're doing.
That's good. Thank you.
But when you look at the development of children through extracurricular activities, and then you start integrating social media into that, where is the line from the responsibility of the school versus the responsibility of the parent, and how has that line moved over the last 10 years?
You know, if it affects the educational environment of school, we have to deal with it. So I would tell you that we're never not working or on duty when it comes to social media and its presence with our students.
I think the first word, in fact, was more effective.
It is, I don't even know what the line is anymore, to be frank with you.
Because-
How's it
could you
moved
hear-
in 10 years?
Yeah,
It's
because you hear
astronomical.
reports of, you know, somebody did this on social media, and they blame the school for not education that perhaps a parent should be giving their student on social media. And I'm just kind of wondering where that line really is these days,
So
as to
we-
where that responsibility lies.
Listen, it's ours. We can't sit here, we can't say that somebody else should be doing it. We have to do it. And so I know that in our elementary schools, they use a common sense media, and there's some lessons from that, talking about social media.